Narcissist, Seduction, Episode 8. Ten minutes later, Ashley and Wynne pulled into the car park of the Havelock Arms, which had an extensive beer garden off to the left. "This looks good," she commented. She parked the car, and they both got out. "Have you got some money?" she asked. "Mm-hmm." "You get the drinks then. I haven't any money on me. You'll get used to that. I'm always forgetting to brick some money up," she replied, with an engaging smile. Wynne nodded and headed into the cool interior of the pub, and emerged shortly, bearing drinks for them. Ashley was sat at a trestle table, her head tilted towards the sun. Wynne approached and placed her drink in front of her. He sat down and took a swig of his cold lager. Ashley reached a hand out and took his, rubbing her thumb back and forth over his hand. "Oh, it makes such a change to be able to relax. I always feel calm with you." "That's good," said Wynne. "Yes, he wouldn't want to come in here. He doesn't really like pubs." "Who doesn't like pubs?" queried Wynne. "Well, him, for a start. He would rather choose wine and drink at home, plus his company is based 25 miles south of where we live, so he has to drive a lot, so he can't drink. Add to that, he's often on call for emergencies." "Yes, I understand, but that doesn't mean you can't like a pub." "He's a bit of a snob, you see. He doesn't like the people who drink in pubs. Not like me. I get on with anyone and everyone. I'm good with people." "I thought you didn't like people who don't come up to your standards." "I don't." "Then how can you like everyone and anyone?" asked Wynne. "Oh, you know what I mean, Ian. Anyway, the only person that matters to you is me." She flashed him a smile. "Well, I'm not going to complain about that," he answered. "Good. I want you. I need you. You're the only one who understands me." "I'll do my best," answered Wynne, slightly taken aback by the forcefulness of what she had said. "You won't leave me, will you?" she asked. "No, I need you to drive me back," joked Wynne. "No, I mean you won't leave me ever." She continued, completely missing his joke. "I've no need to leave you." "Good." Wynne looked about the beer garden. Several other people had had the same idea, and had broken away from work to enjoy some late autumnal sunshine. Ashley had turned her head and was regarding her right shoulder, which was on display, the dress that she wore having no arms to it. "I'll have to ensure I don't burn my shoulders. It's hotter than I realized." "You've got good shoulders, nicely defined." "Yes, I know. When I was younger, I thought my face wasn't that great. I looked like a boy, so I decided to have the best body that I could," she explained. "You don't look like a boy," said Wynne. "You haven't seen me without any makeup on. I do." "Nonsense. Anyway, I try to keep in shape." "You are in shape." "Well, my bottom could be a little higher, and these," she said as she grabbed at her breasts, "will probably start to sag. I'm 40 next month." "Look fine to me," grinned Wynne, casting a glance down at her cleavage. I didn't breastfeed. That would have been their death knell." "Not something I know much about," confessed Wynne. Ashley took a sip of her drink. "So, who's caught your eye at Eurobank?" "In what way do you mean?" "Oh, come on. You love the ladies." "Oh, I see. Nobody has, honestly. Sure, there are several attractive ladies on my floor, but they're quite a bit younger than me. I've only just arrived, so I don't want to gain a reputation straight away, do I?" "Ah, so you are going to get a reputation at some point, then?" chided Ashley. "That wasn't what I said. Anyway, that's rather rich coming from Serial Affair Woman," responded Wynne with a laugh. "Serial Affair Woman?" said Ashley, feigning insult. "Mm-hmm. How many was it again?" 3. "Only 3? I thought it was more." "No, 3, and to be honest, only one of them was an affair. The other 2 were—" She paused as she sought out the correct word. "Dalliances." "Ah, dalliances. Of course they were. Do tell." Ashley adjusted how she was sat, as if she was settling down to begin a long tale. She seemed pleased that he had invited her to tell him about what had happened. Well, one was some chap at the gym. He became obsessed with me. He was called Steve. He was a police officer. I had to change my mobile number because of him, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. No, we just got chatting at the gym, and then he wanted to meet up, and he kept pestering me. He was quite clearly after me. He made it obvious. I liked him to talk to, and he had a good body, I'll admit that. But I didn't want anything to happen between us. And Peter saw one of his messages. I told him nothing had happened and that he would not leave me alone. Peter wanted to report him, but I told him not to bother. It was easier to change my number. And Jim, presumably. Yes, we bought a few machines for the house instead. The reality was that was just so Peter could keep an eye on me, you see. I see. Who's next, then? Well, this next one was the affair. This was Aaron. Ah, yes. This was the chap that Corkers caught you snogging on the doorstep of the bank, and you said he was comforting you, said Wynne, and he started laughing. Ashley stared at Wynne with an indignant expression on her face as she waited for him to stop laughing. Yes, well, I had to say something, and it was a good job I did. Corkers opened his mouth to plenty of people. So you had an affair with Aaron? Yes, we both knew one another from Commerce Bank. He had a very calming influence on me. It was almost tantric. You see, Peter would wind me up with repeated criticism, whereas Aaron was an oasis of calm for me. You carried on seeing him when you moved to Novo Bank? Yes. She started laughing. What is it? He had me on the main boardroom table at the bank. That's charming. I've eaten my lunch off that table. Ashley shrugged and took another drink. So how long did that last? Why are you asking me all about this? I don't really like to talk about myself. I'd much rather talk about you. I was just interested in you. I want to know all about your past. Okay. Well, it's nice to have somebody interested in me for once. On and off for 8 years. 8 years? Yes. How long have you been married? 13 years. Quite a large part of your marriage to have an affair for. So when did that start? Not long after I got married. That soon? Well, I shouldn't have married Peter, really, but I just went along with it. So it ended in 2006? Yes. Wynne appeared to be calculating something. So you were having an affair when Amelia was born? Yes, I was having lunch with Aaron when my waters broke. Good grief. Well, at least he was some help. If I'd been there with Peter, he would have done nothing. When I was about to give birth to Christopher, I was doubled up with labour pains, and I was begging for Peter to drive me to the hospital. Do you know what he said? Wynne shook his head. Wait another hour, so we don't have to hang around at the hospital. You probably aren't as dilated as you think you are. Well, I suppose labour can take a while. I was screaming in agony, Ian. I swear he enjoyed seeing me like that. It was agony, but I dealt with it. I have to. I'm on my own in all of this. Mind you, the midwife said I dealt with giving birth brilliantly. No stitches and minimal pain relief. So, if you were having an affair when Amelia was born, how can you be sure who the father is? After all, she looks like you. Ashley looked down at her drink as if ashamed, but Wynne could see that the corners of her mouth were turned up. I can't be sure. Jesus Christ, Ashley. Does Peter know anything about this long-standing affair? No, Aaron was pressing me to leave Peter. He'd left his wife and wanted me to leave Peter. But I didn't like being told what to do, so I ended it. Where's Aaron now? He moved from the city to a regional setup for Tertiary Bank. I don't see anything of him these days. He went back to his wife. Okay, so that's number 2. What about number 3? That was a client. Ah, the one you apparently had trysts with at the Buena Casa Hotel. That's him. You sent me a text saying you made the whole thing about Buena Casa up. No, I didn't. Actually, you did. I have it here, replied Wynne, as he reached into his suit pocket for his phone. Are you sure? I don't remember that. Yes, wait a second, I'll find it. Wynne scrolled back through the messages and showed it to Ashley. Oh, I sent that referring to saying that we were dealing with the finance for the buyer to the hotel group. No, you didn't. We were talking about the client you had an affair with. I remember it clearly. You said you used to meet him in the Buena Casa, and then you sent this text. No, I don't remember saying that. I was talking about the buyout. No, that's wrong. It's right, snapped Ashley. Wynn's eyes widened in surprise, and she immediately changed her expression to a smile, but it lacked warmth. She stared at Wynn, as if challenging him to contradict her again. Nothing turns on it, he conceded, returning his phone to his pocket. So it did happen? He asked. Yes, but it wasn't an affair. You see, he was much older than me, by 20 years or so. It wasn't sexual. He was like the father I've never had. He gave me advice when I was going through a difficult time with Peter. So when did this take place? Asked Wynn. Let me think. It was 2008. How long did that go on for? About 18 months. How did that one end? Peter and I were on holiday and he saw a text from Paul. Paul was the client. Yes, nodded Ashley. What did Peter do? He pushed me from the car as it was moving. He did what? He shoved me out of the car. He went nuts and called me a slut and then pushed me out of the car. Good God, were you hurt? A little bit. That's what he's like. He's got a terrible temper. Well, in fairness, he did just find out that you were having an affair, so he isn't exactly going to be best pleased, is he? Well, no, I suppose not. But he did it in front of Amelia. Of course, if he treated me better, I wouldn't stray, would I? It's his fault. He brought it on himself. That's bad. I know. Now do you see why I've done as I have? I have left him before, back in 2007. I went and stayed with my parents for 5 weeks, but he pleaded for me to go back and that everything would be different. It was, for about 2 months, and then he reverted to type. So why do you put up with his behaviour? I do it for the sake of the children. They are my life. Thank God they are like me, though. That is such a relief. I don't think them being in a toxic atmosphere is actually going to do them any good in the long run, though. Well, he hardly spends any time with them as it is. Seriously, Amelia will ask me if Daddy is going to be away on business. If I say he is, she smiles. If I say he isn't, she looks anxious. As soon as she hears his key in the front door, she changes mood. Surely it can't be all bad. After all, you have been married to him for 13 years. I've been with him nearly 20. We met at university. We were on the same course, but I shifted to economics after 1 year. My parents didn't like that. No, they wanted me to be an engineer like my father. When I told them I was stopping my engineering degree and moving to economics, my mother hit me. Goodness me, that seems a bit of an extreme reaction. I'd have thought they'd have been proud of the fact that you were at university. Yes, you would, wouldn't you? Of course you realise that. They don't. Nothing is good enough for them. I tried my best to please them, but they put down everything I achieve. I am used to it, though. She isn't very maternal, you see. We don't have a good relationship. Wynn took hold of Ashley's hand and squeezed it. You've had a tough time, then. Oh, I don't want your pity, she said. I will survive, onwards and upwards. Wynn smiled supportively as he looked at her. Despite the defiant look on her face, her eyes betrayed fragility. Anyway, excuse me, I need a wee, she announced. She stood up and kissed him before making her way towards the pub. Wynn took another drink and reflected on what he had heard. Ashley had spent more time in affairs than being faithful. Mind you, Wynn thought, her husband sounded like a right bad-tempered, controlling prick. It was no wonder she'd messed about, seeking solace in the arms of another. He would have kept the extent of the affairs to himself if it had been the other way around. He couldn't criticise, as he had a few misdemeanours during his own marriage. Not that it was right, but his transgressions were but a handful of drunken encounters when he was on the end of another baseless mood swing from his wife. He had not, however, embarked on any affairs, tempting as it might have been to do so. Still, he reasoned that since he knew about the incident with Aaron on the steps of Nova Bank, she had to confess to that affair at least. She could have mitigated the impact of this revelation. Instead, he chose to believe that she wanted him to know everything that she had done, be upfront with him about it. Of course, he entirely understood why she had reacted as she had. He pondered whether their embryonic liaison would be regarded in time as a dalliance, or whether it would grow into something more sustainable. Her track record wasn't good, but that was born out of her obvious mistreatment and unhappiness. He wouldn't treat such an engaging lady in that manner, so she would never have any need to seek comfort elsewhere. Of course, that was assuming This so far brief behaviour became something more deep-rooted. He was relaxed and in no rush. What this did tell him, though, was to handle her with the utmost care. She deserved that. He was happy to play the long game here and be the caring, decent man that she needed.